There's something that many believe in, but only a few truly understand. Taking a walk every day seems enough to maintain the health and freedom we hold so dear. Yet, this well-repeated truth hides another side. Walking isn't enough. The 5 best exercises for seniors to stay healthy and pain-free. This phrase acts as a reminder that even in the simplest habits, there's always more to discover. In the quiet of an early morning, as daily routines shape themselves around our steady steps, a question arises that few dare to ask. Is simple movement really enough to preserve the vitality we're searching for? Perhaps the answer isn't just in the act of walking, but in what stirs within us when we move with intention and feel every breath as a promise of life. This video doesn't offer quick fixes, but invites you to look beyond the act of walking. To understand that health and independence, especially after 65, flourish when we nurture practices that go beyond mere steps. Let's discover together exercises that not only strengthen the body, but also rebuild the trust needed to live lightly and joyfully. So, take a deep breath and come along with me, because maybe walking is just the beginning. And the real secret lies in those small gestures that carry us when everything feels more fragile. In the end, the answer is often closer than we think. All it takes is a mindful look to find it. 1. Walking is good, but it's not enough. There's a detail that few notice when we talk about health and longevity. Walking is an almost instinctive act that seems to hold all the answers about staying vital. But there's something that changes everything. The body is so much more than steps alone. It needs care, strength, and balance to remain free. And with each step we take without really listening to what lies beneath, we miss a precious chance to hear what the body wants to tell us. What's often forgotten is that, as the years go by, walking alone no longer protects the foundation that carries us. Muscles, tendons, and joints are like the roots of an old tree. They need to be nurtured to keep us steady. Ignoring them opens the door to aches that once lay silent, and to falls that could have been prevented. This realization changes everything. This leads us to something even deeper. True health goes far beyond what we see on the outside. It's a quiet dialogue with our body, a constant invitation to feel the weight of our bones and the ease that emerges when we strengthen ourselves from within. Walking alone doesn't awaken this hidden strength. It takes practices that tend to the invisible layers that support us. Think of the small movements in daily life. Bending down to pick something up, climbing a step, turning to reach for a book on the shelf. Each of these actions requires balance, flexibility, and strength. If we overlook exercises that develop these qualities, their absence will show up even in the simplest tasks. And then we see that walking alone isn't enough to keep the body in harmony. Yet within this discovery lies a hidden beauty. When we accept it, we open ourselves to a new path. A path that doesn't demand huge sacrifices, but small, mindful gestures. A gentle stretch in the morning, a strength exercise using our own body weight, a movement that tests our balance. Each of these gestures awakens something in us that says, we're stronger than we think. What few realize is that strength doesn't just come from muscles. It also comes from trust. And trust grows when we know we can stand firm, even when the ground feels slippery. That's why walking alone isn't enough. We need to nurture the strength and mobility that make us feel safe and free to enjoy life to the fullest. And there's something even more intimate. When we start weaving these exercises into our routine, we're not just training the body. We're also reconnecting with our own story, rediscovering every limit and every possibility. From that rediscovery grows a new kind of health, one that rises from our careful attention to each movement and reflects itself in a quieter, more joyful smile. Maybe walking is only the beginning, but in exercises that challenge the body and nourish the soul, we find real vitality. And in the end, that's the answer that's always been there, ready to be felt and lived in every gesture, in every breath. Now the path is open, and each step can be the start of a deeper change. 2. Recommended exercises. When we talk about recommended exercises, many imagine something complicated, something hard to fit into daily life. But the truth is, strength and ease can grow from simple practices. Water activities, for example, can relieve joint pain by up to 40%. It's as if the body, immersed in water, finds an embrace that supports it and allows movement without strain, yet with depth. But there's a detail that makes all the difference. These exercises aren't meant only for those seeking a perfect shape or dramatic transformations. They're for anyone who wants to live with more freedom. Strength training, for instance, can cut the risk of falling by up to 34%. Light weights, resistance bands, or even just your own body weight are enough. It's an invitation to realize that strength is always there, waiting to be awakened in every small motion. What few understand is that balance doesn't just come from the gym or training rooms. It's built in daily life, in the moments when we learn to listen to our body and respond with kindness. Practices like Tai Chi and Qigong show us that flexibility and strength can go hand in hand, and that in just 6 months, the risk of falling can drop by 58%. It's a reminder that health and calm can walk side by side. This leads us to something even deeper. When movement becomes a quiet ritual, the body finds new life. Cycling, whether on a stationary bike or outdoors, offers a safe way to strengthen the legs and protect the joints. Each turn of the pedals isn't just exercise. It's a promise that vitality is closer than we think, even when pain tries to tell us otherwise. And there's an option for those who feel they can't move like they used to. Seated exercises. These remind us that mobility doesn't depend on big sweeping motions. Sometimes, a small, gentle movement, repeated with care and patience, is enough to boost circulation, build strength, and renew confidence. Tiny daily victories that, together, transform life from the inside out. At the end of every practice, it's as if the body whispers an ancient secret. True health is born from careful listening. Full body stretches don't require rushing. Just 10 to 15 seconds on each side can be enough to feel tension melt away, like a knot slowly loosening. This simple gesture is also an invitation to patience and self-care. But there's something that few notice. These exercises aren't just motions. They're small rituals that strengthen the mind and heart. They remind us that health isn't found in magic formulas, but in the sum of mindful gestures and in the belief that the body truly can renew itself. And every new stretch, every new breath, brings a unique sense of being alive. Yet, maybe that's what changes everything. Discovering that health is a quiet path made of patient steps and movements that reconnect us with what truly matters. In the end, the answer lies in each gesture that wakes up the life that's been sleeping inside us. And this path begins with the decision to care for ourselves, without hurry and without fear. 3. Inspiring stories. Sometimes what we need most to believe in the power of small gestures are real stories that weave themselves into our own. Anna discovered the power of water to ease her joint pain. Each time she entered the pool, it was like a sigh of relief, a reunion with the lightness she thought she'd lost. She reminds us that there's always a way to rediscover the joy of movement, even when the body feels tired. For Paul, it was strength training that gave him a reason to get up every morning. It wasn't just about lifting weights. It was about choosing to stay steady, even when age constantly reminded him of his limits. With every small gain, he felt his confidence grow, as if each stronger muscle was a piece of his story being rewritten. But there's a detail that few notice. Sophia, who had always believed she'd lost her flexibility, found in Tai Chi a gentle rhythm that reconnected her with her own body. In every movement, she discovered that the soul can stretch and find room to grow. These weren't just exercises. They were moments of reconnection with herself, a quiet embrace that made her feel alive again. Michael, who never liked the gym, discovered unexpected joy in cycling. Each turn of the pedals was like a trip back to childhood, when a bike meant freedom. And so, slowly, he built strength in his legs and rediscovered that feeling that every step can be a fresh start. Because sometimes, all it takes is a single movement to remember who we are. Clara, who always thought of a chair as a limitation, turned it into a stage for new discoveries. Every seated exercise became a reminder that the body always finds ways to renew itself, even when it seems like there's no way forward. Each gentle stretch felt like a bridge between the present and a future filled with possibilities. What few understand is that these stories aren't just about muscles or balance. They're about courage. The courage to try, to not give up, to see the body as an ally and not as an obstacle. In every quiet victory, there's a whisper of hope that says, "You can still do this." And that brings us to something even deeper. Because when we hear stories like those of Anna, Paul, Sophia, Michael, and Clara, something stirs in us too. It's as if the aches we feel become a little lighter, as if hope finds a space to grow. Every new practice we try carries the strength of those who walked this path before us. Maybe these stories teach us that the secret doesn't lie in grand gestures or miraculous promises. It's in quiet care, in the patience of every attempt, in the trust that grows when we allow ourselves to start over. Because in the end, every step, every movement is a vote of confidence in the life still pulsing within us. 4. The power of consistency. In the quiet of each morning, before the sun reaches its peak, there's a gesture that few notice: consistency. Exercising regularly, even just 10 or 15 minutes a day, has the power to transform both body and mind. It's as if every repetition is a step toward a place where strength and ease meet, creating a balance that goes beyond the physical. What few realize is that consistency doesn't require grand achievements. You don't need to run marathons or spend hours in the gym. All it takes is a quiet promise to yourself, a small daily ritual that steadily rebuilds trust in your own body. And in that promise is the certainty that everything, little by little, becomes easier, more natural, more real. This leads us to something even deeper. Steady practice creates invisible roots that support our daily movements, like the roots of a tree that anchor it even when they're unseen. Consistency strengthens us from the inside out. In this daily care, we find the foundation for every step we take, for every new challenge we're brave enough to face. Think about the days when discouragement feels strongest. On those days, holding on to consistency becomes even more valuable. Because even when the body wants to give up, that steady gesture quietly whispers, "You're still here. You can still keep going." And in that whisper lies the strength that carries us forward. There's a detail that few understand. Consistency isn't just discipline. It's an act of kindness toward ourselves. Every time we take a moment to care for our bodies, we're telling ourselves we want to keep moving freely. And little by little, that small act becomes something greater. Trust, health, the quiet joy of living. There's something poetic about this process, because in time, what once felt hard becomes second nature. The body begins to respond, to open up, like a flower reaching for the sun. Each new movement becomes an invitation to see how far we can go, without rushing, but knowing we're moving forward. What few say is that the power of consistency doesn't lie in instant results, but in the patience of every tiny step. Because in the end, it's that patience that creates the freedom we long for. The freedom to move with confidence, to feel at home in our own skin. Maybe here is where the real magic lives. In the quiet choice to repeat, to nurture, to allow ourselves to try again. Because when the body learns the way, it also teaches us something essential. That every movement holds the promise of a fresh beginning. And that, at its core, is all we need. As life keeps its rhythm and our bodies share their stories, a quiet invitation to self-care emerges. An invitation to treat every movement with patience and gentleness, knowing that even the smallest gesture holds an immense potential for change. Because in the end, health and well-being aren't just about muscles and joints. They're also about how we choose to care for ourselves each day. What few understand is that every step, no matter how small it may seem, carries real meaning. Even when progress feels slow, every caring gesture echoes within us, like a breath of hope that reminds us we're still here, still alive. And it's in that echo that we find the joy we're searching for. The joy of feeling whole, of knowing we can always begin again. This brings us to something even deeper. When we care for our bodies, we're also tending to our hearts and minds. Every exercise, every stretch, every deep breath becomes an act of reconnection. A chance to find joy in the simplest movements, to rediscover the strength of a body, learning to stay balanced, even when everything feels uncertain. Think of what it means to walk without fear, to rise with confidence, or to wake up in the morning with a little less pain. These are moments that might go unnoticed by many. But for those who have felt the body's limits, they're precious gifts. And it's in those quiet victories that hope blooms. When we understand that every gesture, no matter how small, is a promise for the future. But there's a detail that few notice. This kind of care doesn't have to be harsh or rigid. It can be as light as a morning breeze, as gentle as the sun's warmth on your skin. Small acts that, day after day, take root and offer quiet support when we need it most. And there's a quiet beauty in this process. Because in the end, it's the sum of small steps that carries us the farthest. Every time we choose to care for our bodies, we're telling life that we still believe in movement, in health, and in the quiet joy that rises from within. And that choice makes us stronger, even on the days when everything feels heavier. What few say is that it's not just about exercises or discipline. It's about self-love, the courage to start over, and the ability to see the beauty in what's simple. Every movement we do with intention and care is also an act of gratitude, a reminder that life always offers us new chances to blossom. Maybe that's what makes it all so worth it. Realizing that hope doesn't live in grand promises or quick results, but in the patience of every single effort, in the trust that body and soul can always find renewal. Because in the end, life is made of these small gestures, and each one brings more joy, more freedom, and more truth. In the silence that appears between each movement, everything suddenly becomes clear. And then everything makes sense. Each small step, each conscious breath, each gentle stretch, they all come together in a single moment. The body doesn't forget. It holds memories, whispers truths, and in the quiet rhythm of consistency, it shows us what has always been there. The answer isn't in rushing to walk, but in the pause that invites us to truly feel. And in that moment, we realize it's not just the body that grows stronger, it's our whole being that comes alive again. Sometimes all it takes is a single breath to remind us that health isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Walking isn't enough. The 5 best exercises for seniors to stay healthy and pain-free. This is more than a phrase, it's a promise. A promise that each mindful step, each small stretch, can open a door to greater freedom and ease. And it all begins right here, with the decision to trust ourselves once more and to truly listen. Because these exercises aren't a burden, they're a gift we give to our bodies. They give us the strength to begin each day with new courage. When we learn to be patient, we start to feel how trust quietly grows within us, like a gentle current that warms us from the inside out. And suddenly, stretching becomes a dance, balance becomes a playful act, and life itself becomes an invitation to gratitude. Perhaps that's the greatest treasure, recognizing that every muscle, every joint is part of our story. That even when our back aches or our knees feel weak, there is always the chance to start fresh. Each breath can be a new beginning. Each small triumph a reminder of how precious our bodies truly are. And so, every day becomes a new chapter, written in the language of care and kindness. Now it's your turn. Feel how these exercises can find their place in your life. Let the stories you've heard inspire you and share with us. Which of these steps has moved you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to explore even deeper, be sure to watch the video linked above. There, you'll find new inspiration to begin your own journey toward a healthier, more mindful life.